Welcome. Take a moment, because you've come at just the right time. Maybe you've heard about metaphysics before. You might know the ideas that the mind creates reality, that the universe responds to us, and that we're all energy. But maybe a part of you still feels unsure. This book brings together the wisdom of many great thinkers who saw past illusions. Hermes Trismegistus, who said everything is mind. Neville Goddard, who said your imagination is God in action. Jacobo Grinberg, who showed that reality is a shared mental space. And others like Plotinus, Spinoza, Giordano, Bruno, and Pythagoras. They all had different words but talked about the same truth. Think of their teachings like pieces of a puzzle. You might have heard one piece and tried to change your life with it, but without the full picture, it only leads to confusion. This audiobook gives you the whole map, not so you just believe it, but so you remember who you really are. It's not about obsessing over making things happen, but about waking up the creator inside you that you forgot you had. Step by step, this book will help you understand how reality really works. Then, you'll see the power already inside you and learn how to use it, not from wanting or desire, but from a place of calm knowing, like someone who already is. If you listen all the way through, even if you jump around, you'll get why your life has been the way it is, and how to start creating from a completely new place. This isn't a gift from me to you. It's a sign that you're already ready. Because if you've found this book, you're not just searching, you're starting to wake up. Chapter 1. Reality is Mental, inspired by Hermes Trismegistus. Long ago, in ancient Egypt, when the pyramids still gleamed, a mysterious figure named Hermes Trismegistus shared wisdom that's lasted thousands of years. He wasn't just a wise man. He represented knowledge that connects the seen and unseen worlds. While the pharaohs built temples to link earth and sky, Hermes taught a deeper truth. That connection is already inside our own minds. The most important idea from Hermes is this: the universe is mind. What does that mean? Unlike today's common belief that consciousness comes from matter, Hermes flipped that idea. He said the whole universe, galaxies, physical laws, everything, comes from one universal mind. You can think of it as divine consciousness or the great architect of everything. It's not just one mind among many. It's the base of all existence. The Compendium, a book collecting Hermes' teachings, puts it like this: in the mind of the all, in the all we live, move, and have our being. From this view, matter is just a solid form of divine thought, an idea that stays real because the universal mind keeps focusing on it. Every atom, every natural force is part of this endless intelligence creating worlds. Here's the big secret of Hermes. Your mind isn't just a passive receiver of reality. It's a small version of the same creative power that shapes the entire universe. When Hermes said, "As above, so below," he meant we're like little pieces of the universal mind, each carrying creative power on a smaller scale. Your mind isn't separate from the universal mind. It's an individual expression of it. Like the ocean can be millions of waves, but still be ocean, universal consciousness shows up as countless minds without losing its oneness. This changes everything about how we see reality. If the universe is mental at its core, your thoughts aren't just inside your brain. They're changes in the universal field of consciousness. The idea that there's a separation between you and what you see is an illusion. Both come from the same mental source, and because matter comes from consciousness, it naturally responds to it. Interestingly, this idea isn't just from Hermes. In ancient India, the Upanishads said, Brahman is consciousness. Buddhist philosophy taught that everything we experience is mind. Even Plato believed the physical world is just a shadow of higher mental realities. How did all these distant cultures arrive at the same idea? Maybe because they weren't guessing. They were describing what they experienced through deeper awareness. After centuries of focusing on physical science, modern quantum physics is starting to rediscover what Hermes said so long ago. The famous double-slit experiment shows particles act differently when observed, meaning consciousness affects reality. Max Planck, the father of quantum theory, said, "I regard consciousness as fundamental. I regard matter as derivative from consciousness." Nobel winner Eugene Wigner also pointed out, "You can't fully explain quantum mechanics without including consciousness. What was once secret knowledge is now coming back with proof from science." Understanding that the universe is mind isn't just a fancy idea. It can change your everyday life when you really take it in. Your outer world reflects your inner state. Your limits come from mental patterns, and what feels like fixed physical problems are actually mental constructs you can change. You can transform yourself by tuning your mind to higher patterns of universal mind and create results that might seem impossible from a traditional material view. It's not enough to just understand this idea with your head. Hermes didn't teach us to just collect facts. He wanted us to actually change who we are. So, here's a simple but powerful exercise. Find a quiet spot and look at something close to you. Really focus on it. Think about what that thing really is. Beyond just seeing it, notice that its color only exists because your eyes see it, its texture because you feel it, and its hardness because your mind interprets it that way. Slowly, realize that the object and your awareness of it are linked. One can't exist without the other. Now, take that idea further. The whole universe exists as an experience inside your consciousness. Doing this exercise helps you break down the false idea that you and what you observe are separate. You start to experience the Hermetic truth that everything is mind. You've just taken the first step on what the ancients called the path of fire. Realizing that reality is mental isn't the end. It's just the beginning. This understanding is the foundation for everything else we'll talk about in the next chapters. Other teachers have expanded on this core truth, giving us ways to work consciously with the mental nature of the universe. Neville Goddard will show us how our consciousness actually creates what we experience. Jacobo Grinberg will explain how the mind connects with the quantum field. Plotinus will help us see why the material world is an illusion. But it all starts here with the first and most important idea from Hermes. The universe is mental. Everything is mind. Chapter 2. Consciousness creates the world. Neville Goddard. The imagination is the true creative power in humans. The outside world is just a reflection of what's already happened inside the imagination. Neville Goddard. Yes, Hermes Trismegistus taught that the universe is basically mental, and Neville Goddard helps us see how this works in our daily lives. Back in the mid-1900s, when science was focused only on physical things, a mystic from Barbados reminded us of a timeless truth. Your consciousness is the only creative reality, and the world you live in is a direct reflection of your inner state. Neville Lancelot Goddard was born in 1905 on the Caribbean island of Barbados. After moving to the US, he met an Ethiopian rabbi named Abdullah, who introduced him to mystical ways of understanding the Bible. For almost 40 years, Neville taught a practical philosophy. Anyone can consciously create and change their reality by using focused consciousness and imagination. This might sound strange or even unbelievable if you're used to a materialistic way of thinking. But Neville wasn't talking about wishful thinking. He was explaining a deep truth about how the world actually works behind the scenes. The main idea is simple. Consciousness is the only real thing. Everything we see outside is just a reflection of what's going on inside our minds. For Neville, when you say I am, that pure self-awareness, you're using the true name of God, the creative force behind everything. Consciousness, he said, is the only reality, literally. That means life itself is made of consciousness. The whole world, not just yours but everyone's, is made from consciousness. This matches what Hermes taught, but Neville takes it further by showing how to use this truth practically. He explained that consciousness creates our experience in three main ways. 1. The state of consciousness. What we believe about ourselves and feel inside shapes what we experience. Neville asks us to think about the state of mind we're in when we look at the world, because we don't see things as they really are. We see them as we are. 2. The desire that focuses attention. Our desires pull our attention, and whatever we keep our attention on eventually shows up in our reality. Neville said that if you keep your mind fixed on a certain feeling or state, it will grow and show up in your life. 3. The feeling behind the thoughts. It's not just the thoughts, but the emotions connected to those thoughts that give them power to appear. Feeling is the secret, Neville said. Feeling is the language the subconscious understands. It's how your mind turns thoughts into real experiences. This process happens all the time, whether we know it or not. When we're unaware, we create by default, usually reflecting fears, old habits, and what we expect without realizing it. But when we understand how it works, we become conscious creators who can deliberately shape what happens to us. What makes Neville's teaching special is that he didn't stop at ideas. He gave a clear, practical way to change your reality. The method of assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The idea is that when you imagine something as already real and feel it deeply, you create it in your life. As he said, if you assume you are what you want to be, then you are. You don't have to become it, you already are it. Once you feel the wish fulfilled, the world will start rearranging itself to match that feeling. Here's the simple process to bring anything you want into your life. Be clear about what you want. Picture a scene in your mind that shows your wish coming true. Relax and quiet your critical mind. Imagine the scene with as much detail as possible, like you're really there. Most importantly, feel the emotion you'd have if your wish were already real. The key is feeling it, living that imagined moment so strongly that your subconscious accepts it as true. This feeling changes the possibilities around you and brings in the people, opportunities, and situations needed to make it real. Notice how this fits perfectly with the Hermetic idea. If everything is mind, and our individual consciousness is just a smaller part of the universal mind, then by changing what's in our consciousness, we're actually reprogramming a piece of the universal mental field. What might surprise people today is how exactly this law works. Neville Goddard shared many examples, his own and his students', where situations that seemed impossible changed to match what they imagined. People healed from illnesses considered incurable, money problems fixed, broken relationships mended, and opportunities appeared out of nowhere. This creative power isn't just about personal stuff. Neville believed that even big world events can be influenced by the focused thoughts of an individual or group. During World War II, he used his principles to help the war effort, picturing a positive outcome while serving in the U.S. Army. What does this creative ability really mean? If consciousness comes before and shapes physical reality, then our usual idea of time flips upside down. The future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we're actively creating right now from our present moment. Possibilities aren't far off in some future place. They already exist as potential states of mind we can choose to enter now. As Neville said, time doesn't create anything. It just unfolds what's already there. The seed already has the tree inside. Likewise, your consciousness already holds every possible experience waiting to be brought to life through focused attention and feeling. This breaks down the false idea that the observer and the thing observed are separate, that the creator and the created are different. We aren't separate from the world we see. We're the source of it. As Neville put it, the outside world is just yourself pushed outward. Every person, situation, and event you meet is a reflection of your own consciousness. Here's where Neville's teaching gets deeply spiritual. If everything is a projection of consciousness, then separation is an illusion. Feeling apart from others, from God, or from what you want is just a state of mind that you can rise above. The big gap between what seems possible and impossible only exists in our conditioned thinking. As he said, The limits of what's possible grow as much as you believe in the impossible. When we trust in our power to create reality, the impossible becomes inevitable. This idea also changes how we think about responsibility. If our inner states shape what we see outside, then there aren't really victims or villains, just creators who don't always realize their power. The world we live in exactly reflects the mental habits we hold. This doesn't mean blaming yourself. Neville pointed out that most of what we create happens unconsciously, through patterns and emotions we've picked up without questioning them. The goal isn't to punish yourself, but to take conscious control and create on purpose. Freedom doesn't come from controlling outside events, but from choosing the inner states you live in. True freedom, Neville said, is the freedom to choose how we react to what happens. This frees us from feeling trapped by outside circumstances. We don't have to wait for the world to change. At any moment, we can step into the state of mind we want and let the outside world adjust itself. Are there limits to this power? Neville said we do operate within certain patterns set by collective consciousness and natural laws. But these limits are much more flexible than we think, and they expand the more we understand how powerful consciousness really is. What Neville describes isn't breaking natural laws, but understanding how they really work. If consciousness is the foundation of reality, then what we call physical laws are really stable patterns of shared consciousness, and those patterns can be shifted by raising our awareness. For anyone serious about growth, Neville's teaching offers more than just a way to get what you want. It's a path to spiritual freedom, knowing that I Am is the divine name, and that our consciousness is one with the universal consciousness, lets us go beyond personal limits and experience our divine nature. Here's a simple exercise you can try to practice this creative power. Pick one thing in your life you want to change. Start small, a conversation you want to have, a chance you want to attract, or a feeling you want to develop. Take a moment to clearly picture the perfect outcome. Don't worry about how it will happen, just focus on what the end result looks like. Now close your eyes and relax deeply. Breathe slowly and let your critical mind calm down. Picture a short mental scene showing your desire already fulfilled. This scene should be after you've already achieved it, not the process of getting there. For example, if you want a job promotion, imagine a coworker congratulating you on your new position. Step into that scene like it's really happening. Use all your senses. What do you see, hear, and feel physically? Most importantly, feel the gratitude and satisfaction you'd have if this were already true. Stay with this feeling for several minutes, really soaking it in. When you're ready, open your eyes slowly, but keep holding that feeling of having what you want. Don't stress about how it will show up in real life. Your job is to stay in the feeling of fulfillment. Try doing this daily, especially before you sleep when your mind is most open. What you're really doing isn't forcing something outside you, but reshaping your own consciousness to match the reality you want. As Neville said, changing your feeling changes your destiny. We've seen how consciousness, especially when you combine imagination with feeling, actively creates what you experience. This fits perfectly with the Hermetic idea that everything is mind, and gives us a practical way to work with the mental nature of the universe. Coming up, we'll explore how Jacobo Grinberg connected these ideas to quantum physics, bridging consciousness and matter. But for now, remember the core of Neville's teaching. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, and watch the world around you change to match it. Chapter 3. The Mind and the Quantum Field. Jacobo Grinberg. Reality isn't something separate from the person observing it. It's created through the interaction between our consciousness and a unified field of information. Inspired by Jacobo Grinberg. So far, we've seen how Hermes Trismegistus taught that the universe is basically mental, and how Neville Goddard showed that our consciousness actively creates the world we live in. Now, let's look at a fascinating idea that connects ancient wisdom with modern science. Jacobo Grinberg's Syntergic theory. In the late 1900s, Jacobo Grinberg Silberbound, a brilliant Mexican neurophysiologist, challenged the common idea that the observer and the observed are separate, or that consciousness and matter are totally different. He trained in strict scientific methods, but came to ideas that strongly connect with old metaphysical teachings. Grinberg's Syntergic theory says that what we think of as physical reality actually comes from a fundamental field of information. This field isn't physical in the usual way, but it's like a basic matrix where all perception starts. The world out there is really the ongoing interaction between our brain and this field of information. Grinberg said, "Reality isn't something fixed or independent. It's a dynamic process, a continuous connection between this information field and our brain activity." This idea has big consequences. If what we call objective reality is really a result of how our consciousness interacts with an information field, then the strict division between mind and matter falls apart. What's really interesting is that quantum physics supports this idea. For example, the famous double-slit experiment shows that tiny particles act like waves of possibility until they are observed, and then they take on a definite position. Grinberg suggested this isn't just a strange thing happening at the particle level, but a basic rule for all of reality. He proposed that consciousness isn't something that just comes from matter. It's a basic part of the universe that works together with information fields to create what we perceive. To understand this better, think about how we see things. Normally, we assume light bounces off an object, enters our eyes, turns into brain signals, and then forms an image in our mind. It sounds like a one-way process where we just receive information, but Syntergic theory says it's more like a two-way conversation. Our brain guesses what we're seeing, sends these ideas to the informational field, and then checks if those guesses are right or need adjusting. Seeing is an ongoing back and forth, not just the world sending us pictures. This matches the ancient Hermetic idea. As above, so below. As within, so without. The world we experience isn't separate from our mind. It's constantly created by their interaction. Grinberg didn't just talk about these ideas, he tested them. In one famous experiment, he put two people who had meditated together into separate rooms, shielded from any physical signals. When one person was shown flashing lights, the other's brain showed matching activity, even though they were completely isolated. Grinberg called this the transferred potential, and it suggests that consciousness can connect beyond normal limits of space and time. This discovery challenges the idea that the mind only lives inside the brain. Instead, it looks like our individual consciousness is just one local expression of a bigger field, much like Neville Goddard described our mind as a smaller part of the universal mind. Another important idea in Grinberg's work is what he called the lattice or reticulum, a kind of universal network of information that holds everything together. When we perceive something, we aren't picking up isolated objects, but tuning into specific patterns within this universal field. Different states of consciousness let us interact with this field in different ways, showing us different sides of reality. Grinberg's ideas go beyond just philosophical thinking. He doesn't say everything is just in your mind. Instead, he says there is a real, objective information field, but what we experience depends on our brain and state of consciousness. Changing our consciousness lets us access different parts of this field. This helps explain many mystical experiences recorded over thousands of years. Altered states of consciousness, like deep meditation, sacred plant ceremonies, or yogic practices, can be seen as changing how we connect with the Syntergic field. This lets us perceive and understand things beyond normal awareness. For example, when Grinberg studied the Mazatec shamans in Mexico, especially the famous healer Maria Sabina, he saw that they seemed able to reach and work with parts of the informational field that most people can't access. Rather than dismissing these abilities as superstition, Grinberg believed they show real, advanced human potential that science can explain if it broadens its view. One of the most eye-opening ideas from Syntergic theory is about how we understand time. If reality isn't basically physical but informational, and if consciousness connects with this information beyond space and time, then our usual idea of time as a straight line moving forward doesn't quite fit. Grinberg suggested that what we feel as the flow of time is just one way consciousness interacts with the Syntergic field. When we're in higher states of awareness, this interaction can change, letting us experience things that go beyond normal time, like predicting the future, prophetic dreams, and other strange experiences seen across cultures. This matches what Neville Goddard said. Time doesn't create anything new, it just unfolds what's already there. In this view, past, present, and future all exist at once as possibilities in the informational field, and our consciousness picks which ones to focus on through our attention and expectations. What does this mean for everyday life? If reality is an informational field shaped by consciousness, then the world we experience isn't just happening to us. It's being co-created all the time through how we perceive and what mental state we're in. That doesn't mean we can snap our fingers and get anything we want right away. That's a common misunderstanding of the law of attraction. Syntergic theory shows that creating what we want works within certain limits set by the information field itself and by how steady and clear our conscious and unconscious minds are. But it also means we can influence our experience much more than science usually admits. By changing where we put our attention, what we expect, and how we feel emotionally, we actually change how we interact with this informational field, opening up new possibilities. Grinberg called this process syntergization, bringing a new order and harmony between our brain's activity and the information field. This idea backs up practical tools like visualization, positive affirmations, and focused meditation, methods Neville Goddard recommended from a spiritual angle. Here's a simple exercise you can try to feel this for yourself. Find a quiet, comfortable spot where you won't be interrupted. Close your eyes and take a few deep breaths to relax your body and quiet your mind. Now, notice the act of noticing itself. Pay attention to sounds, feelings, and thoughts as they come into your awareness. Instead of getting caught up in them or reacting, just watch the space where they appear. Slowly, widen your awareness to sense that you're not just passively receiving information, but actively part of a connected informational field. Imagine your attention as a beam of light that lights up and activates certain potentials in this field. Pick one part of your life you want to change. It could be a situation, a relationship, or a feeling inside. Instead of trying hard to fix it, just feel how your consciousness is already creating a new pattern with the Syntergic field by simply focusing your attention on it. Stay in this calm but focused state for 10 to 15 minutes, letting a feeling of flow and openness grow in your connection with reality. If you do this regularly, you may start to notice how your consciousness quietly shapes what you perceive, and eventually what shows up in your life. You're building what Grinberg called greater Syntergic coherence, a clearer, more harmonious relationship with this basic field of information. Sadly, Grinberg's work ended abruptly. In 1994, at the peak of his research, he mysteriously disappeared. His body was never found, and people still wonder what happened. This mysterious ending has made his story almost legendary, which sometimes overshadows the real scientific importance of his work. Still, his ideas live on and connect with growing research in quantum physics, neuroscience, and spiritual traditions. Scientists like Stuart Hameroff and Roger Penrose are exploring similar ideas, suggesting consciousness might work at the quantum level, and that the clear divide we think exists between mind and matter might actually be an illusion based on how we perceive things. Grinberg's vision gives us an important scientific link between the ancient Hermetic teaching, the all is mind, and modern scientific studies of what reality really is. It invites us to see our relationship with the world not as just passive observers of a fixed outside world, but as active participants in a connected field of information and consciousness. As we keep exploring this collection of metaphysical wisdom, we'll see how this idea of reality as a field of mind and information also shows up in Plotinus's teachings about the illusion of matter. Grinberg's Syntergic theory is the key scientific bridge between old metaphysical wisdom and today's understanding of reality, reminding us that mind and world aren't separate. They're part of one ongoing creative process. Chapter 4. The Illusion of Matter and the Vibration of Everything, inspired by Plotinus. What your fingers touch and your eyes see, the solid, unchanging things, are actually made of movement and vibration. The physical world is just the outer layer of a universe vibrating at many different speeds. Plotinus sensed this during his deep reflections, and ancient teachers of the Kybalion expressed it clearly. Everything vibrates, nothing stays still. What looks like a solid rock is actually a swarm of tiny particles moving non-stop, so fast and steady that it seems solid to you. Science today agrees with what ancient wisdom said long ago. Even atoms are mostly empty space, with particles spinning inside at incredible speeds. Your body, which feels solid and real, is mostly empty space too, with electrons circling their centers at distances as wide as planets orbit the sun. Plotinus taught that matter is the final stage of divine energy, like the darkest shadow of pure light at its source. Matter isn't fake, but it's incomplete. It's like thinking a shadow is the actual object. The big mistake humans make is not in what they see, but in believing that what they see is everything there is. The old saying, "as above, so below," shows that the same rules that guide the stars also guide atoms. The spirals of galaxies look like DNA patterns, and the rhythm of the universe beats in your heart. There is no real divide between the very small and the very large. They are different forms of the same basic vibration. The Kybalion also teaches that these vibrations aren't just physical, they're mental too. Thoughts are vibrations at their finest and strongest form. When you realize that matter is just vibration packed tight, you understand how thoughts can affect matter. They're not separate things, but different points on the same vibration scale. Your mind can influence matter because they share the same essential nature. Plotinus described the universe as a huge symphony where every being is a unique note. Harmony comes not from all notes being the same, but from their right relationship. Every visible thing carries its own vibration, a note in the cosmic music. We suffer when our personal vibration falls out of tune with the universe's melody. The split between spirit and matter is an illusion. They are not opposites, but the two ends of one continuous vibration spectrum. What you call spirit is vibration at its fastest and freest. Matter is the same vibration slowed down and packed tight. Between these extremes, there are countless levels of vibration, each with its own rules and forms. Water can be ice, liquid, or steam, changing how it looks and behaves, but staying the same substance. Likewise, the universe's basic energy shows up as light, thought, feeling, and solid matter. All the same energy, just vibrating at different speeds, different rhythms, different dances. The big secret of ancient teachings is this: you can change your life by changing your vibration. You're not stuck in a fixed, hard world. You live in a sea of flexible vibrations that respond to your awareness. Raise your inner vibration, and you change what you notice and experience. Enlightenment is just moving to finer vibrations where you see the true nature of reality. Plotinus said that awakening happens when the soul remembers its source and reconnects with the root of all vibrations. It's not about gaining something new, but recalling what was forgotten. The spiritual path is about tuning yourself to sense higher vibrations and see parts of reality invisible at lower vibrations. In a vibrating universe, forms are just temporary shapes in a flow of energy, like patterns water makes in a river, holding a shape even as the water moves. Your body and mind are stable patterns in this ongoing energy flow. Great mystics have directly felt this truth. In their expanded awareness, the solid world fades, revealing the constant vibratory dance beneath. They see objects not as fixed things, but as ongoing processes, events happening in energy exchange with their surroundings. A tree is not a still object, but a continuous flow, A dance holding a tree shape for a moment. The Kabbalion says nothing ever rests. Everything moves and vibrates. From the tiniest particle to the biggest galaxy, all is in endless motion and change. What feels stable is just an illusion shaped by our senses and limited time view. If we could see on much longer timescales, mountains would look like waves and continents would seem to dance on Earth's surface. This changes how you relate to reality. If everything vibrates, the hard lines between things soften and connect. You are not separate from the universe. You're a unique vibration interacting constantly with everything else. Separation is just an illusion. Connection is the real truth. In this vibrational world, space and time show themselves as ways vibrations relate. They're not fixed containers, but part of the dance. Plotinus said time is the soul's movement, how we arrange experiences in order. Space is how we arrange them all at once. Both are ways of perceiving, not absolute truths. Matter isn't the base of reality. It's just its densest, most limited form. Like foam on the ocean's surface, real in its way, but small compared to the deep water beneath. The real nature of things lies not in their physical form, but in the vibrational patterns that shape them. This understanding has powerful effects on your everyday life. Since everything vibrates, you, being conscious, can actually tune yourself to different levels of reality. Your attention works like a dial, picking which frequencies you notice. When you focus on certain thoughts, feelings, or sensations, you tune your awareness to those frequencies, making them stand out in your experience. People around the world have developed ways to purposely change their body and mind's vibrations. Through meditation, chanting, dancing, rituals, and sometimes certain substances. These practices help free your awareness from stuck, heavy, material vibrations and open you up to lighter, expanded states. The basic law of resonance says that things vibrating at similar frequencies naturally sync up, like two swings hanging close together eventually swinging together. In the same way, your inner vibration attracts and syncs with similar energies around you. Your thoughts and feelings aren't just happening inside your head. They're part of a bigger vibrational field connected to the whole universe. Ancient Hermetic wisdom taught that the mind is so powerful because it works at the most subtle vibration levels that humans can reach. Thought, being the finest kind of vibration, can shape denser vibrations like matter. Not instantly, since each level has its own timing, but gradually, like water slowly carving stone. The big secret the ancient initiates knew was that consciousness can rise up this vibrational ladder, experiencing finer and brighter states. At the highest levels, the line between observer and what's observed fades away, showing the deep unity beneath all the variety. In those moments, you don't just watch reality, you become part of it. Plotinus described this mystical experience as the soul's return to its origin, the one source where all vibration starts. It's a return from many back to one, from complexity to simplicity, from form to formlessness. In this state, the illusion of solid matter disappears, and you see that everything is light showing up in different ways. Seeing reality as vibration frees you from being stuck in a world of fixed, separate objects. Instead, you live in a flexible sea of vibrations where your consciousness both watches and takes part. You're not just an object in the world. You're a field of awareness always interacting with all other fields. The real power of this understanding isn't just knowing it intellectually, but feeling it directly. When you truly experience the vibrational nature of reality, the sense of being separate and limited fades. You realize you're part of the great unified field of energy and consciousness that is the universe. Then, instead of asking, "What can I get from the world?" you ask, "Which vibrations do I want to tune into?" Freedom isn't about controlling outside things. It's about choosing your inner vibration. No matter what's happening around you, freedom is your ability to pick your own frequency and how well you resonate with everything. Every thought, feeling, and choice changes your personal vibration. With each decision, you play a note in the big cosmic song. Spiritual growth means learning to play notes that express your true self in harmony with the universe's melody. The journey of wisdom is about refining your vibration. It's not about collecting more knowledge or experiences, but about tuning your inner self to vibrate more clearly, without noise or resistance. It's a path of simplifying and going back to the core, remembering what's always been there, but hidden under the noise of a conditioned mind. In the end, understanding reality as vibration brings you back to the source of all creative power, your own consciousness. In a vibrating universe, consciousness isn't just a byproduct of matter. It's the original field from which all vibrations come. You're not a passive result of material forces, but an active center of creative awareness, constantly shaping your life through your vibrational resonance. Matter is spirit made solid. Spirit is matter set free. Water and ice are the same substance in different vibrations. In the same way, the visible and invisible, material and spiritual, human and divine, aren't opposites. They're all part of the same vibration spectrum. Your journey is to remember this truth, not just as an idea, but as a real experience, felt in every part of your being. Then, the whole universe shows itself as a huge field of endless vibrational possibilities, and you, as a living consciousness, get to explore, experience, and take part in this infinite cosmic dance. The illusion of solid matter fades, not to deny the world, but to reveal its true beauty as the living expression of universal spirit, the visible form of the invisible, the tangible made real. Chapter 5. I am the name of the Creator. Inspired by Neville Goddard. Before the first word is spoken, in the quiet space before anything exists, there is a power without a name, but it answers to one. I am. This is the living, aware force behind all creation, the original spark that came before the universe itself. It's not just a fancy idea or a poetic phrase. It's the basic truth everything we experience is built on. Neville Goddard called it the secret name of God. When you say I am, you're calling on the very power that created the universe. This isn't some mystical exaggeration. It's a practical, life-changing truth. Those two words aren't just grammar. They open the door to your divine nature. They connect the limited human to the infinite divine. Saying I am is the strongest statement of who you are and that you exist. The biggest mistake seekers make is thinking the creative power is outside of themselves, something to earn or get from somewhere else. The real truth is that power lives inside you, in your very awareness of being. You are not separate from the source of all creation. When you say I am, you're speaking with the Creator's voice. It's not about pride, but about waking up to what's always been true. What comes after I am becomes a creative command. It's like planting a seed in the rich soil of universal consciousness. If you say, I am sick, I am poor, or I am weak, you are creating those realities just as surely as you could create health or wealth. The universe doesn't judge what you say. It simply follows your words with perfect accuracy. Neville taught that consciousness is the only real thing, and your states of consciousness shape your experience. Understanding I am shows that creation isn't a step-by-step process over time, but a constant act happening right now. You don't wait for the future to be real. You create your present by living fully in the consciousness of what you want. Tomorrow is born from today's mindset. Your future isn't set by outside things or your past, but by the consciousness you hold now. Neville's big secret was that your desire is already fulfilled in eternity. You don't need to struggle to make it real. You just need to accept it as already true. This is real faith, living as if your desire is already here, before you see it in the outside world. It's not hoping something will happen. It's knowing it already exists on a deeper level. When you realize I am is the Creator working inside you, you stop begging and start declaring. You stop praying for things and begin thanking for what you already have in your consciousness. True prayer isn't asking an outside God. It's stepping into the feeling of your fulfilled desire. It's feeling so real inside that you believe it fully. There's a huge difference between saying, I want to be successful, and saying, I am successful. The first keeps you stuck in wanting. The second moves you beyond that. Wanting puts what you want in the future, but it never arrives. Assuming you already have it brings it into the present. The only time creative power works. Don't want, assume. Don't hope, be. That's the real art of creating consciously. What you say after I am shapes your whole experience. There are no careless or meaningless words after this powerful statement. Every time you say I am, you tap into the universe's strongest creative force. You do this all day long with every thought, feeling, and belief about yourself and life. The question isn't if you're creating, but whether you're doing it consciously or not. Most people use this power without realizing it, and often against themselves. In just an hour, they can switch from I am blessed to I am a victim, from I am confident to I am afraid. They don't see they're sending mixed signals that cancel out their intentions. Mastery starts by paying attention to what you allow after I am, and learning to refuse negative or limiting thoughts. This is one of Neville's key lessons, the power of conscious attention. You can't stop saying I am, it's who you are. But you can choose carefully what follows it, both in your thoughts and your words. This isn't holding back. It's directing your creative energy wisely. The universe doesn't answer your wishes, prayers, or positive phrases unless your inner state matches them. You can repeat, I am wealthy, 1,000 times, but if inside you feel poor, that's what you'll get. The key isn't just repeating words. It's feeling your statement as true, deep inside, experiencing it as real in your mind. Neville said imagination is the true ground where I am works its magic. Not daydreaming or surface-level thinking, but the ability to live fully inside the feeling of your desire before it shows up outside. It's stepping into the scene of your fulfilled wish and experiencing it with all your senses and emotions. It's not just seeing yourself rich. It's being rich in your mind, not just picturing health, but feeling healthy inside. This is the strongest form of creative imagination. The process is simple but powerful. Decide clearly what you want. Create a scene that shows your desire fulfilled. Step into that scene as if it's real, using your inner senses until it feels alive. Then, most importantly, live with the belief that this inner experience is more real than what your eyes see. Here's one of the biggest challenges for anyone practicing this: the gap between the inner reality you've assumed and the outside world that hasn't yet caught up. It's like planting a seed that hasn't sprouted yet. This is the test of faith, not blind belief, but the ability to stay true to what you feel inside, even when what you see outside doesn't match. The temptation during this time is to slip back into old ways of thinking, to doubt, worry, or fear the results. Every time you do that, you interrupt the creative process. It's like digging up the seed over and over to see if it's growing. Discipline means holding on to the feeling of having what you desire, even if there's no outside proof yet. This is the real test of mastering I am. I am goes beyond time. When you say, I am successful, even if things look rough, you're not lying or fooling yourself. You're using your divine power to pick the reality you want from unlimited possibilities. You're shifting your consciousness to a timeline where that success is already happening. It's not tricking your mind. It's connecting with a deeper truth beneath surface appearances. Creating this way isn't about making something new out of nothing. It's about choosing and living in what already exists in the vast field of possibilities. Your consciousness is like a radio dial tuning into the frequency of the reality you experience. Changing your state of consciousness means changing the channel you're on. This is the freedom Neville talked about. You're not stuck because of outside circumstances, only by the states of mind you choose. Another deep truth revealed by practicing I am is that time can be shaped by consciousness. The past isn't fixed. It's as flexible as how you view it. You can look back on past events from a new state of mind and change how they affect your present. You don't change what happened, but you change its meaning and power over you. This is true freedom, from karma, from fate, from cause and effect. Neville taught specific tools for working with I am. One of the most powerful is called revision. Before you fall asleep, replay your day, not as it happened, but as you wish it had gone. This practice shifts your energy and actually rewrites how the past influences your future. Revision isn't denial, it's conscious rewriting. Another key practice is falling asleep in a specific state of consciousness. Sleep helps impress that state deep into your subconscious, which is where real change happens. Just before sleep, your logical mind relaxes, making it easier to access your subconscious. Using conscious breathing while holding a chosen state strengthens I am. Breathing in as receiving the state you want. Breathing out as releasing what holds you back. Your breath becomes a physical way to bring your mind and body together in creation. As you go deeper with I am, you'll realize you're not just changing your circumstances, you're changing yourself. Every new state of consciousness transforms you. You're not a separate person using power. You are the power, expressing through different forms. This understanding breaks down the ego and shows your true self, pure consciousness, the I am, before all labels and limits. Neville made it clear this isn't about escaping reality, but entering a deeper reality. It's not denying the world, but seeing that the world reflects your inner state. The world you see is a mirror of the consciousness you hold. To change what you see, you have to change what you believe about yourself. One of the most groundbreaking parts of this teaching is that it doesn't depend on being good or worthy. The power of I am doesn't care about good or bad, worthy or unworthy. It works equally well for anyone who understands and uses it. This is true freedom. Divine power available to all, without needing anyone's permission or special status. That said, there's a natural law of cause and effect. While you can create anything with I am, what you create also changes you. What you bring into the world leaves its mark inside you. True wisdom is choosing states of consciousness that not only bring good experiences, but also help you grow into your highest self. Keep practicing conscious I am, and you'll come to the ultimate realization. You're not just a person using divine power. You are divine power experiencing itself as a person. There's no God in you. There's only God experiencing through you. No separate creator in creation. Just one continuous act of creation, inseparable from consciousness itself. When God said, I am that I am, He wasn't just giving a name. He was revealing the true nature of everything. With this realization, the circle closes. You started by using I am to create what you want, and you end by knowing yourself as the pure I am, the consciousness before all forms, the eternal presence holding all possibilities. You no longer say I am this or I am that. You simply rest in I am, the unspoken name of the Creator you always have been. Chapter 6. The Immortal Soul and the Reincarnation of Knowledge, inspired by Plato, Pythagoras, and Hermes, Trismegistus. Before you opened your eyes for the first time in this life, you already existed, and long after you close them for the last time, you will still exist. Who you really are goes beyond the short time we call life. Your soul wasn't born when you were born, and it won't die when your body dies. This truth, taught by wise thinkers like Plato, Pythagoras, and Hermes Trismegistus, isn't just comforting words about death. It's the fundamental reality of who you are. The soul is immortal not because some higher power says so, but because it's in its very nature, just like fire is hot and water is wet. Things that are born can die. Things that were never born never die. Your body, thoughts, and feelings are always changing. They're born and they die. But the part of you that watches all this change, that stays the same through it all, doesn't die because it was never born. It exists beyond time. Plato taught that true knowledge isn't something new we learn. It's something we remember. When a truth touches you deeply, it's not new information entering your mind, but a recognition of what your soul already knows on a level beyond normal memory. This idea is called anamnesis, or remembrance. Real learning is the soul recalling what it has always known. When a teaching moves you, lights up your understanding, or feels like coming home, you're experiencing this remembering, your soul reconnecting with knowledge from past lives and from its true nature, which returns to its source between lives where all truth exists. Before coming into this life, the soul looks at pure ideas, the perfect form of beauty, justice, and truth, not just their examples in the world. When you're born, this direct knowledge gets hidden, but it never disappears. It stays deep inside as intuition and wisdom, waiting to be awakened. Plato showed this with the story of a slave boy in Meno. Without any formal teaching, the boy solved a complex math problem just through Socrates' questions. This proved the knowledge was already inside him, waiting to be remembered. For Plato, the goal of education isn't to fill an empty bucket, but to light a fire, to help the soul remember what it already knows. Pythagoras took this idea further, building a system about purifying the soul through many lives. Each life is a chance to free the soul from illusions tied to the physical world, to remember its divine nature, and to consciously return to its source. This process, called metempsychosis or soul transmigration, isn't just moving from one body to another. It's a gradual awakening, peeling away layers until full self-realization. According to Pythagoras, the soul moves through different lives with different forms and situations based on how much it has grown and what lessons it needs. It's not punishment or a mechanical process, but a learning journey for the soul's full development. The struggles we face aren't random or unfair. They're carefully designed to help us grow at the right time. Hermes Trismegistus, known as the thrice great, summed this up with the saying, "As above, so below." The soul's coming into a body follows the same natural principle as a thought turning into action, or a seed growing into a tree. Being born isn't punishment or bad luck. It's the natural flow of life moving from potential into reality, the universe creating itself at every level. The soul's immortality isn't about a personal self-surviving death. That's still tied to ego. It's about identifying with the immortal principle behind all beings. It's not that you survive death, but that your true self was never born and never dies. What dies is the temporary personality, the memories, habits, and preferences you call you. What lasts is pure consciousness, the silent witness to all your experiences. There is also continuity between lives. Your talents, tendencies, and weaknesses aren't random or just genetic. They come from your past growth. A child with a natural gift for music might be remembering skills from earlier lives. People who feel a strong connection or dislike for someone might be responding to past life encounters. Déjà vu, sudden insights, and knowing things without explanation are pieces of memory coming up from past existences. This understanding changes how you see your current life. It's not just a single, isolated event between birth and death. It's one chapter in a much bigger story that stretches before and after this lifetime. You didn't arrive as a blank slate. You came with a rich history of past experiences and growth. What you do now shapes your future in this life and beyond. Plato described death as untying knots. The bonds holding the soul to the body loosen, letting the soul return for a time to its natural state of freedom and clarity. It's like coming home, a chance to absorb and integrate what you've lived through. But for most souls, this is followed by a new birth, not as a reward or punishment, but based on the soul's own needs and development. Souls attached to the material world tend to come back for more earthly experiences. Souls focused on higher goals are drawn to more subtle realms. There's no outside judgment, only the natural law that like attracts like, and everything returns to what matches its frequency. This is true cosmic justice, not punishment from outside, but the natural result of choices and states of being. Reincarnation explains many mysteries. Why some children are born into tough situations, why good people suffer while bad people succeed, or why some talents appear without clear cause. These puzzles make sense when we see each life as just one part of a much larger story, stretching far beyond this single lifetime. The ultimate goal isn't just to collect endless experiences over countless lives. It's to awaken to your soul's true nature, realize its connection to the immortal source, and free itself from the cycle of birth and death. This was central to the mystery teachings of Eleusis, the Orphic Mysteries, and the Pythagorean initiations. These weren't just about believing in the soul's immortality, but offered practical ways to truly experience it, to remember your true self not just in your mind, but deep within your being. Plato used the powerful story of air to explain this. A warrior thought dead comes back to life and shares what he saw after death. Souls, after a time of purification based on their actions, must choose their next life. Some, stuck in old habits and attachments, pick lives that continue their suffering. Others, wiser, choose lives that help them grow and awaken. The choice isn't forced. It comes from where the soul is at that moment. An important part of this story is that souls drink from the river Lethe, the river of forgetfulness, before being born again. This forgetting isn't random, but needed so the soul can fully live the new life without old memories getting in the way of lessons it needs to learn. Still, important knowledge stays hidden deep inside, ready to be recalled through memory and intuition. This explains why most people don't remember past lives, but in moments of expanded awareness, like deep dreams, meditation, near-death experiences, or hypnotic regressions, these memories can surface briefly. These aren't just fantasies, but real glimpses of past soul experiences, usually hidden by the necessary veil of forgetting. For the ancient sages, the key wasn't recalling specific past lives, but realizing the soul's ongoing continuity through them all. What matters isn't knowing who you were before, but understanding who you truly are now. It's not remembering past events, but awakening to the timeless consciousness that has witnessed all of them. This is true remembrance, not of past lives, but of the one life flowing through all. Pythagoras taught practices to strengthen this deep remembering. Quiet reflection, listening to harmonic music based on math patterns, studying numbers in nature, and purifying body and emotions. These don't force past life memories, but tune the soul to resonate more clearly with its divine, eternal nature. Hermes Trismegistus said the goal of life isn't to collect more knowledge, but to become living knowledge. The soul doesn't want just to know more. It wants to be more, to awaken to deeper parts of itself. This is true gnosis, not information but transformation, not facts, but awakening to what's always been. This awakening goes beyond individual lives. Growth made in one lifetime isn't lost at death. It becomes part of the soul's wisdom in the next. This explains gifted children and sudden insights. Talents and abilities we seem born with are results of past growth. So, the idea of the soul's immortality and reincarnation isn't just a comforting belief to ease fear of death. It's an accurate description of consciousness and its connection to time and form. It doesn't require blind faith, but invites you to explore it yourself. Know thyself, said Socrates. In knowing yourself deeply, you find not just the truth of this life, but the continuity of your being through all lives. This understanding doesn't lessen the value of this life. In fact, it makes it even more important. Every choice, thought, and action shapes not only this life, but also the foundation for future lives. Every moment plants a seed that will grow beyond this lifetime. At the same time, it frees you from feeling rushed to do everything now. The soul's evolution takes all the time it needs, and nothing truly valuable is lost at death. The memory that connects your many lives isn't stored in the physical brain, but in what the ancients called the subtle body, the soul's energy field carrying experiences from one life to the next. This isn't fully physical or fully spiritual. It exists on subtler levels beyond our normal senses, but can be felt by awakened awareness. Understanding the soul's immortality and reincarnation frees you from one of humanity's deepest fears: death. Not because it promises your ego will survive. That part is temporary. But because it shows your true self was never born and never dies. Death isn't the end, but a change, a shift from the visible to the invisible, a return to the source before starting a new chapter. Freed from fear of death, you can live more fully. Paradoxically, when you know you don't end at death, you can let go more completely and embrace life. Knowing the soul is immortal lets you live in your body more fully, appreciating the precious chance each life offers. The ancient teachers suggested ways to deepen this awareness, reflecting on your own death, not in a scary way, but as a freeing practice, reviewing your day before sleep, like a small version of the soul's between lives process, and revisiting important experiences to learn their wisdom. These habits help keep your consciousness continuous, eventually breaking through the veil of forgetting between lives. The idea of remembrance is especially powerful for spiritual seekers. It explains why certain teachings touch you deeply, not because you're learning something new, but because you're recalling what your soul has always known. As Plato said, a true teacher doesn't give you new knowledge, but helps you bring forth what's already inside. This also explains why you sometimes feel an instant connection or dislike for people, places, or traditions. Your soul is responding to bonds from past lives. The person who feels like an old friend, though you just met. The place that feels like home even if it's new. The spiritual path that feels familiar. All are echoes of connections beyond your current life. True education isn't about gaining new facts. It's about remembering the timeless wisdom already inside the soul. The word education comes from Latin, meaning to draw out. True education pulls out the wisdom within, not puts new stuff in. This is the Socratic method, helping the soul give birth to its own knowledge. You've lived before, and will live again. Each life is a chapter in the soul's great journey, an opportunity to remember more of who you really are, to awaken to deeper parts of yourself. Remembrance isn't strange or supernatural. It's your soul's natural way of recalling its origin, recognizing its true nature, and waking up to its eternal identity. It's like the prodigal child coming home, a home it never really left, only forgot for a while in the dream of separation. Chapter 7. The Spirit as the Source of All, inspired by Baruch Spinoza. Spinoza boldly declared that everything is truly one. This wasn't just an idea, but a deep truth about reality itself. What we call God, nature, substance, or spirit are just different names for the same endless reality that includes everything. There's no real separation between creator and creation, observer and observed, thinker and thought. We are like waves on a vast ocean, briefly aware of ourselves as separate but always connected to the whole. This infinite substance expresses itself in countless ways, mainly as thought and extension. We are both body and mind, two sides of the same reality. Spinoza asks us to see our true place in the universe. We're not separate beings looking out at an outside world. We are unique parts of the infinite divine substance itself. Divinity isn't somewhere far away or separate. It's right here in every part of us, in every thought we have. This breaks down the false idea that there's a sacred world apart from everyday life. Every true act of understanding is a connection with the divine. When we really get something, we're sharing in the infinite knowledge that is part of substance itself. This view changes how we live ethically. We don't act out of fear of punishment or hope for rewards, but because we understand who we really are. Virtue isn't about following rules from outside. It's living in harmony with our true nature, which reflects the infinite. Negative emotions come from incomplete ideas and misunderstandings. As we grow in true knowledge, we free ourselves from emotional slavery. Human freedom isn't about some impossible free will that breaks natural laws. It's about acting from clear knowledge of who we are. Everything that exists is part of God, and everything that happens follows the necessary order of divine nature. There's no real chance or randomness, only limits to what we know. We think we could have acted differently because we don't see all the causes behind our actions. The highest knowledge, what Spinoza called the intellectual love of God, isn't worshiping a personal God, but deeply understanding the logical order of the whole universe that we belong to. This love is eternal because it's part of the endless substance itself. With this view, death loses its sting. Our true self can't die because it's part of eternal substance. What dies is our temporary, individual form, but our essence lives on forever. Wisdom means seeing things from the perspective of eternity. This changes pain into understanding, fear into calm, and hatred into love born from reason. It leads to a kind of rational mysticism where deep thinking brings us into union with everything. Spinoza's metaphysics isn't just abstract theory, it's a path to real transformation. Understanding frees and changes our lives. In his famous phrase, Deus sive natura, God or nature, Spinoza says God and nature are the same. God isn't a being with human traits or will. God acts by the necessity of infinite nature. Natural laws aren't random commands, but necessary expressions of divine essence. This idea challenges both traditional religion and materialism. Seeing God as nature doesn't make the divine lifeless. It makes all life sacred. There's no supernatural realm. Nature itself, fully understood, is divine. The mind, Spinoza says, is the idea of the body, not a separate thing, but the conscious side of our physical self. Every mental state matches a physical state because they're two sides of the same event in one substance. This idea overcomes the split between mind and body. In Spinoza's ethics, good and evil aren't absolute. They mean whatever increases or decreases our power to act and understand. The highest good isn't a reward outside us, but flourishing as the true expression of our nature, as finite parts of infinite substance. Virtues like generosity, gratitude, and friendship aren't rules imposed on us, but natural results of knowing we're connected to others and the whole. Virtue isn't against nature. It is our highest nature. Spinoza's determinism might sound depressing because it denies free will. But for him, understanding our place in the natural order leads to greater freedom. Knowing the causes behind us is the start of self-control. Acting from our true nature instead of being pushed by outside forces we don't understand. Our mind's power to understand is our freedom. Through knowledge, we change passions that control us into actions that show who we really are. We're still determined, but now the cause comes from inside, not outside. Ultimately, Spinoza's philosophy calls us to wake up from the illusion of separation and realize we belong to the infinite whole. This awakening doesn't need secret rituals or supernatural signs, just patient thinking that clears away false ideas and shows who we really are. In Spinoza's world, there's no guilt or regret. These come from wrong ideas about freedom and responsibility. True understanding is forgiveness of ourselves and others, knowing everything happens according to nature's eternal order. Chapter 8. Inner Wisdom as Divine Fire, inspired by Giordano Bruno. In deep silence and reflection, Giordano Bruno discovered a truth that cost him his life. but would forever guide those seeking spiritual knowledge. True wisdom isn't something outside us to be gained. It's a divine fire burning within. Inside every person is a spark of the infinite cosmic fire, the very essence of reality. Knowing isn't about learning new facts, but remembering who we really are deep down. Bruno understood that the universe isn't a limited creation, but an endless expression of divinity. Every star we see is a sun, the center of other worlds, each a part of the infinite creative power filling the cosmos. This groundbreaking idea went beyond old models of the universe. It didn't just move Earth from the center. It removed the idea of any center at all. In infinity, every point can be a center, and none is the absolute center. Bruno's idea of an infinite universe shows that divinity isn't separate from the world, but is both its reflection and expression. The line between God and the world fades away in a vision where divinity unfolds from within everything. This view, known as mystical pantheism, sees every natural thing, a stone, a plant, an animal, or a star, as a living sign of the divine force that moves all things. For Bruno, true knowledge starts with realizing this deep unity between the divine and the natural, between the big universe and the tiny world inside us. Humans are like mini-universes, holding in potential everything that exists out there. To truly know yourself is to know the whole universe, because the secrets of the cosmos are mirrored deep inside your soul. The inner wisdom Bruno talks about isn't just about thinking or facts. It's a fire that changes the whole person. Real knowing transforms your consciousness, breaking down the limits of your personal view and opening you to see the whole picture. This is the bold, almost wild passion Bruno admired, a divine excitement that lifts the soul beyond surface appearances to grasp the essential unity beneath. This wisdom isn't only for a special few. Everyone carries a divine spark, though many have it hidden under layers of ignorance and prejudice. A true teacher doesn't force beliefs, but helps spark this inner fire, waking up the deep memory of who we really are. Like striking flint to create a spark, a genuine master brings out what's already inside you. Bruno's idea of knowledge as remembering something already known comes from ancient Platonic and Hermetic traditions, which he boldly reinterpreted. Before we come into this life, our souls see eternal ideas, the perfect forms behind everything we experience. Learning is really about remembering these truths hidden by the veil of physical life. But Bruno goes further than Plato, saying these eternal ideas aren't somewhere else. They're right here in nature as the organizing principles behind all forms. The split between ideal and physical worlds disappears when you see that matter is alive with spirit, that every natural thing is a living expression of the divine idea behind it. This is the deeper meaning of the natural magic Bruno practiced, not controlling supernatural forces, but tuning into the hidden connections that link everything in the cosmos. A true magician doesn't break nature's laws, but works with them, seeing the invisible threads connecting what seems separate. For Bruno, memory isn't just remembering facts, but a creative power connected to infinite divine energy. His art of memory, which used images arranged in imagined structures, was more than a technique. It was a way to rebuild the order of the cosmos inside yourself, making your inner world a true reflection of the universe. Seeing knowledge as divine remembrance carries deep ethical meaning. If we carry the divine spark inside, we're responsible for nurturing it until it becomes a bright flame that lights not just our own life, but the whole world. When we awaken to who we truly are, we no longer fear death because we know our essential self is part of eternity. From this view, physical death isn't an end, but a transformation, a step in the ongoing cycle of life and rebirth that makes up the universe. Like a butterfly leaving its chrysalis, the soul freed from the body's limits spreads its wings to explore wider realms of consciousness. The same fire that took Bruno's life in Rome couldn't put out the fire of his vision. His bold ideas challenged church authority and old thinking, planting seeds that would later grow into new ways of understanding the universe and the divine in nature. Bruno's Metaphysics is about the infinite creative power always at work, expressing itself in endless new forms. The universe isn't finished or fixed. It's always becoming, always creating fresh possibilities. This view opposes the idea of a completed world, a closed system. For Bruno, divinity isn't a craftsman making the world according to a set plan, but an artist constantly creating through endless forms, a fire that burns forever, consuming and renewing all things. Creation isn't a one-time event in the past, but a constant process happening every moment, everywhere. This divine force inside everything isn't distant or above, but lives deep in every being, a fire at the heart of nature. The divine isn't outside the world, but right at its core. Every living thing is like a sacred temple where the divine shows itself. Wisdom, then, isn't about collecting facts, but waking up to this divine presence inside us. It's a process of cleaning away what hides our true nature, like a sculptor chiseling away stone to reveal the statue within. The seeker of wisdom sheds ignorance and conditioning to find the divine spark that's always been there. This awakening isn't just thinking harder. It changes the whole person, mind, heart, and body, turning dense energy into lighter states of awareness. This transformation leads to directly experiencing the oneness of all existence. At the heart of Bruno's vision is the idea that the universe is a living being, with a universal soul expressing itself in endless, unique forms. Every creature is like a note in the one-of-a-kind cosmic symphony, only meaningful when heard as part of the whole. Wisdom is knowing you're part of this harmony and tuning your own note to the music of the universe. This living view of the cosmos opposes both the idea that the universe is a soulless machine and the belief that the divine is separate from nature. For Bruno, nature itself is divine when truly understood. Nature isn't made of lifeless objects ruled by random laws, but is the living expression of a cosmic intelligence showing itself in every form and process. Bruno's philosophy is a philosophy of light and fire. Physical light is a symbol and sign of a deeper metaphysical light that forms the essence of everything. Physical fire, which changes matter, shows the divine fire that moves the whole cosmos. True knowledge means joining in this light, burning in this fire, until the difference between the one who knows and what is known disappears in oneness. Chapter 9. The Law of Correspondence. As within, so without. This idea comes from Hermes Trismegistus, an ancient figure often called thrice great. It's one of the most important keys to understanding how the universe works on a deeper level. It's not just a fancy saying. It's a basic rule showing how different levels of reality connect with each other. The whole universe acts like a giant system of mirrors, where everything inside is reflected outside, and everything outside reflects what's inside. There's no real separation between the small and the big, the inner and the outer, or the spiritual and the physical. These differences only seem real because of how we see things, not because they actually exist. In ancient Egypt, where these ideas first took shape, priests studied the stars to understand what was happening on Earth. The movements of planets weren't just about astronomy. They showed patterns that also appear in our minds and in society. The zodiac wasn't just a star chart. It was like a cosmic map revealing the hidden rules behind everything that exists. This law isn't about things just looking similar. It means there's a deep connection between how things are built at different levels. For example, an atom, with its nucleus and electrons, looks a lot like a tiny solar system. A cell's parts work in ways that mirror how bigger things like animals or planets work. The most powerful part of this law is how our inner world connects to the outside world. Our consciousness, what we think and feel, doesn't just watch the world passively. It actively shapes what we experience. What we believe and feel actually helps create the world around us. This was a core idea in the old Hermetic teachings and shows up again in many spiritual traditions, and even in some modern science, like quantum physics. The person watching and what they see aren't truly separate. Consciousness and matter are just two sides of the same coin. When we change what's inside us, the world outside shifts too. Not because of magic, but because of a deeper natural law. Our mind is like a mirror reflecting everything else. Ancient alchemists knew this well. Changing metals from lead to gold wasn't just a physical trick. It happened alongside a spiritual change inside the alchemist. The work on the outside and the work on the inside happened together, each one reflecting the other. This law shows up in our bodies too. Hermetic thinkers saw the human body as a tiny universe. Every organ and system in the body matches bigger universal patterns. Good health comes from harmony between our body and the larger cycles of the universe. Traditional medicines from China to Greece connected organs to planets, seasons, and emotions. When someone got sick, it meant something was out of balance between the person and the cosmos. Healing meant restoring that balance. On a deeper level, this law tells us that our everyday thoughts and feelings are small copies of much bigger cosmic realities. The happiness we feel sometimes echoes the universal joy that exists everywhere. Our moments of clarity reflect the light of the cosmic mind. But pain and struggle are twisted reflections of higher truths. The separate ego we see as me is really a limited version of our true divine self. Even death on this physical plane reflects the ongoing change that is part of life everywhere. As we grow spiritually, we start to see these connections more clearly, not just in our minds, but through direct experience. The borders between inside and outside, self and world, start to fade away, showing us they were never really there. Someone learning the Hermetic mysteries practices this law by changing their inner state on purpose. When their inner world shifts, their outer experience changes too. Not by trying to control things for selfish reasons, but by aligning with universal truths that go beyond me and not me. This idea was central to later Hermetic practices, where calling on gods wasn't about talking to outside beings, but about activating universal energies inside us. The gods are seen as cosmic forces we connect with by growing our awareness. The ancient saying, "Know thyself, and you will know the universe and the gods," sums this up perfectly. True self-knowledge isn't just thinking about yourself, but realizing you are connected to everything. Going deep inside yourself actually helps you go beyond yourself and connect with bigger realities. Meditation, at its core, is practicing this law, calming the surface mind and diving into deeper awareness, where you experience states that match the universe's true nature. Inner peace is really peace with the whole cosmos, and mental clarity is a reflection of universal consciousness. This law also works in society. The way our social, political, and economic systems look outside reflects what's going on inside us as a group. A society built on fear and competition shows a collective mindset that feels separate and lacking. A culture that values power over wisdom reflects confusion about what really matters. Changing society can't happen without changing consciousness first. That doesn't mean ignoring politics and action, but understanding that true change comes from deep inner shifts. Real, lasting progress comes from clear awareness that goes beyond personal and cultural biases. Hermeticism teaches that the law of correspondence doesn't work like a simple cause and effect machine. It's not that every random thought instantly creates something in the real world. Instead, it's our regular mental habits, strong beliefs, and repeated feelings that build resonance fields that draw in matching experiences. This idea is the basis for many spiritual practices throughout history. Techniques like creative visualization, affirmations, prayer, and rituals are ways to consciously work with this law. But they're not about trying to control the outside world. Instead, they help align our inner awareness with the part of reality we want to bring into being. Some people misunderstand this as wishful thinking, like, if I think about money, I'll get rich, or if I picture good health, I'll be healed. But that's a shallow take. It's not just surface-level thinking that creates change. Real transformation comes from changing who we are inside, our state of consciousness. And that is what makes new things appear. At its deepest level, the law of correspondence shows that everything in existence is one connected whole. There's no real inside or outside, just a continuous flow of consciousness expressed in many forms. What we see as the outside world is really just the unfolding of possibilities already present in the universal consciousness we all share. This unity doesn't erase individual differences. Just like the moon's reflection looks different in every body of water, but still comes from the same moon. The many ways consciousness shows up don't contradict its oneness. Instead, they add richness and variety. Spiritual awakening means realizing this truth, not just as an idea, but as a living experience. When we see that our inner self and the outer world are connected, the old division between subject and object disappears. We don't just live in the universe. We live as the universe. This doesn't mean denying other people exist, but recognizing that every person is a unique expression of the same universal consciousness. Different viewpoints don't break unity. They show how endlessly creative being is. This law asks us to take responsibility for what we experience, not as a heavy burden, but as a freeing understanding that we play a part in shaping reality. Change doesn't come from fighting the outside world, but from shifting how we see and create it from within. This responsibility even includes what we notice in others. What attracts or pushes us away often reflects parts of ourselves we accept or deny. The world around us acts like a mirror, constantly showing us aspects of our own consciousness. One of the most surprising parts of this law is that even how we experience time and space depends on what's going on inside our minds. Deep spiritual traditions teach that when we expand our awareness, time and space change dramatically, letting us access parts of reality that everyday consciousness can't reach. From this view, death isn't the absolute end, but a change in consciousness. A move to a state where the rules of correspondence work differently than when we're alive in a body. Near-death experiences suggest that when freed from physical limits, consciousness grows and sees connections between different levels of reality more clearly. The Hermetic tradition invites us to see this law not just as a mysterious idea, but as a practical tool for personal transformation. When we realize the whole universe is like a giant system of mirrors, each part reflecting and being reflected by every other part, we understand our role in this cosmic dance. We're not just watching life happen, we're active creators of our experience. As above, so below. As within, so without. These simple words hold an entire worldview, a deep psychology, a holistic healing system, and a way to live ethically. It's an invitation to wake up to the wonder of a universe where every piece contains the whole, where each person is a small version of the infinite universe. Hermetic wisdom reminds us that real, lasting change always starts inside. It's not about escaping the world, but realizing we have the power to change it. Not somewhere out there, but right at the core of our own minds. Chapter 10. How to Create from Thought. Inspired by Neville Goddard and Giordano Bruno. Imagination isn't just a minor part of the mind or a fun way to escape reality. Neville Goddard, and before him Giordano Bruno, saw imagination as the most basic creative power, the divine force working through us. Imagination actually creates reality. This isn't just a poetic idea, but a real explanation of how our world forms. What looks like solid, unchangeable matter is really a frozen form of divine thought. Our own thoughts share in this creative power. We're not just observers in a random universe. We're centers of creative consciousness in a mental cosmos. To really get this, we have to move beyond thinking of imagination as random daydreaming. True creative imagination isn't shallow or unpredictable. It comes from deep inside us. Bruno called it the key that opens doors to infinite worlds, a power linking our limited mind with the endless potential of everything. When we imagine with clear focus and strong feeling, it's not just thinking about what might happen, It's stepping into that reality on a deeper level that comes before the physical world appears. When we imagine, we don't just look at a future possibility. We actually live in that state, making it real on the causal level that shapes what we'll see. This idea sets Neville Goddard's method apart from simple positive thinking or basic visualization. It's not about pushing desires out into some far-off future. It's about living now in the feeling of having already gotten what you want. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, Neville taught. That feeling is the secret. It's the energy that brings the mental image to life. Just picturing something isn't enough. You have to feel it, live it, and experience the emotions you would have if it were already real. Bruno understood this too. He saw mental images not as passive pictures, but as active forces. When charged with the right emotion and willpower, these images connect us with universal patterns that shape reality. His art of memory, which used emotionally charged images, was both a way to remember things and a method to reshape how the mind relates to the world. This idea goes beyond the old split between mind and matter. Consciousness isn't just something stuck inside the brain, passively watching a separate outside world. Instead, it's a creative force that constantly interacts with and shapes what we see as the physical world. Our inner thoughts and feelings aren't just reactions to what's outside. They actually shape which possibilities become real experiences. The world isn't just a bunch of solid things existing on their own. It's a field of possibilities that get brought to life based on where we focus our attention and what we intend. What we call objective reality is really just a temporary snapshot of certain states of consciousness held strongly enough, both by individuals and groups. This idea has been around a long time. The Platonists taught that the physical world is an imperfect copy of perfect, ideal forms. The Hermetic tradition said everything is mind, and the material universe is just a solid form of the universal thought. What Neville Goddard and Giordano Bruno added is a clear way to work consciously with this creative process, which usually happens without us even noticing. Neville called this the art of assumption. It's not about wanting something new while still feeling stuck in your current situation. That split blocks creative power. Instead, it's about fully stepping into the feeling and identity of the new state, acting as if it's already true. It's an act of faith, not just believing with your head, but a deep inner certainty that comes before anything shows up physically. As Neville said, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Real faith means already living in the feeling of what you want, even if you can't see it yet. You're able to see and feel the invisible so clearly that it becomes inevitable that it will show up in your life. To practice this, you need moments of quiet where your busy mind stops running on old habits and doubts. In this calm space, your imagination can break free from what seems real and project itself into any state you want. Once you pick the state, you dive in completely, not just watching, but really living it. If you want health, don't picture yourself getting healthy sometime later. Feel now what it's like to be perfectly healthy. Notice the feelings and thoughts that come with that. If you want financial security, don't see it as a far-off dream, but place yourself right now in the mindset of abundance, feeling safe, generous, and grateful. This shows that creating what you want isn't mainly about getting something outside. It's about becoming a different person inside. The real change happens in your identity. New situations just follow naturally from who you now are. You don't get first and then be. You are first, and then you naturally attract what matches that being. Neville also taught revision, which applies this same idea to your past. Changing how you remember past events isn't about denying what happened, but realizing the past isn't fixed. It's a memory pattern you can rewrite now. Changing your emotional response to memories frees you from their limits and opens up space for new possibilities. Bruno's view of the universe was similar. He saw reality as a temporary expression of endless possibilities. Every point in space and time holds all potential, and when human consciousness taps into its divine core, It can access any possibility and bring it into experience. This is very different from the materialistic view that says humans are just products of physical forces. For Bruno and Neville, we're spiritual beings with unlimited creative power, living in physical bodies, but never fully controlled by them. Our true essence is pure consciousness, the foundation of all reality. The biggest problem in creating what we want isn't the outside world pushing back, but our own divided minds. If part of us already lives in the new state, but another part still clings to the old limits, we end up stuck in between, which stops creation. To manifest, you have to fully give yourself over to the new state, completely living it, with no energy left in the old situation. This isn't giving up or being passive. It's the highest form of creative will, the conscious choice to live in the new reality. It doesn't mean ignoring where you are now, but rising above it by knowing that now is just one of many possible realities, none of them absolute or fixed. Persistence is key. You have to stay in the new state long enough and with enough focus to imprint it on the universal field that responds to your consciousness. A quick daydream, even if vivid, won't be enough to break through old patterns. Practicing often, especially during times when your mind is relaxed, like before sleep, helps strengthen the new state until it becomes real in the physical world. This way of creating goes beyond both fatalism, the idea we're just victims of circumstances, and ego-driven willpower, which tries to force the world to change. Instead, it finds a middle path. Reality is shaped by consciousness, but not by the surface thoughts that jump around, rather by the deep inner states that truly create. The difference between a shallow wish and a true act of creation is how deep it comes from. Ordinary desire comes from feeling something is missing and hopes for a better future. True creation comes from knowing you already have everything inside you, and that what you want already exists in potential, waiting to be brought out by focused consciousness. This process doesn't break natural laws, but follows the most basic law, the law of consciousness. Just like a seed holds the hidden pattern of the future plant, a mental state that you fully live in holds the pattern for how it will show up physically. This isn't magic in the simple sense. It's a spiritual science that understands consciousness comes before matter. Even time itself isn't an outside limit, but part of consciousness. The gap between thinking of something and seeing it happen isn't just waiting around. It's an active time when the new state builds inside you and the outside world adjusts to match it. It's like how a seed grows into a tree, not because the seed and tree are separate, but because growth follows a natural unfolding. This idea carries a powerful message. We are creators, not just creatures. Our life isn't set by our genetics, environment, or education. It's shaped by the states of consciousness we choose to live in. This freedom isn't given by anyone else. It's who we truly are as unique expressions of universal creative consciousness. Neville Goddard showed this clearly with many examples from his life and his students' lives. Big changes in health, wealth, and relationships happen not because of outside fixes, but because they changed their inner state. These weren't miracles that broke natural law, but examples of a deeper order beyond what the physical world seems to limit. Giordano Bruno paid with his life for daring to challenge the accepted astronomy and the worldviews of his time. He imagined an infinite universe full of countless worlds, each a unique expression of endless creative power. This idea clashed with the old systems that wanted a fixed, controlled cosmos. Bruno's belief in the creative power of human imagination threatened those who kept people passive and afraid. When we put these teachings together, they show that the universe is flexible. It responds to our consciousness. We don't live in a world of unchanging objects, but in an ocean of possibilities that take shape based on our main mental state. By changing our inner state, we literally change the world we see. This doesn't mean denying other people or trying to control everything for selfish reasons. Instead, it means recognizing we have a creative responsibility and take part in a universal consciousness expressed uniquely through each of us. The practice of conscious creation, as Neville and Bruno taught, isn't about controlling the world with ego, but about tuning into higher possibilities that already exist. We don't force our will on a stubborn world. Instead, we align our consciousness with states that better reflect who we truly are and who those around us are. The true power of imagination isn't making up escape fantasies, but connecting with higher realities and bringing them into our lives by fully living those states. This power works through resonance, not force, through assuming new states, not imposing them. Imagination isn't just a mental tool, but the original creative activity that shares the same power that keeps the whole universe alive. By using this power consciously, we reclaim our role as co-creators in an endlessly creative universe made of pure consciousness that expresses itself in infinite ways. This consciousness isn't something we own, but a universal field we all take part in. Our job isn't to make something out of nothing, but to choose, with our attention and intention, which possibilities become real in our lives. As Neville said, all already exists. Creating from thought isn't about making new things, but recognizing and picking what's already there. In the end, creating shows there's no real divide between creator and created, consciousness and its content, or us and the world. Everything is one infinite consciousness exploring itself through countless forms and experiences, each showing a unique part of its endless potential. Chapter 11. Silence, Presence, and the Creative State. Inspired by Plotinus, Grinberg, and Neville, the constant noise around us and inside our minds is probably the biggest barrier to truly understanding metaphysical truth. With so many thoughts, feelings, and distractions, the essential truth stays hidden. Not because it's far away or impossible to reach, but because our ability to see it is drowned out by the non-stop chatter of our usual mental activity. Silence here doesn't just mean no sound. It's a state of complete openness where consciousness rests in its pure nature, free from the distortions of thinking. Plotinus, a great Neoplatonic philosopher, understood this deeply. For him, the path to union with the One, the ultimate source of all existence, went through quieting the mind's usual functions. He said there are three levels of knowledge: opinion, science, and illumination. Opinion is just a middle step. Illumination is the goal. Illumination means directly experiencing metaphysical truth beyond words and ideas. This happens only when the thinking mind becomes silent, letting a higher kind of knowing emerge from deep inside ourselves. This silence isn't empty or passive, but a living stillness full of creative power. A powerful quiet where no words are needed because something greater is revealed. In this stillness, consciousness doesn't disappear but becomes sharper, seeing reality without the usual filters of thought. Jacobo Grinberg, a neuroscientist who studies consciousness, calls this special mind state the coherent state. In his work with Mexican shamans, especially Don Pachito, he saw how these ancient practitioners could intentionally reach a state where the usual noisy brain activity shifted into highly organized, synchronized patterns. This coherence isn't just a brain thing, it's the basis for a big change in how we experience and relate to reality. In this state, the usual gap between the observer and what's observed starts to fade. The brain's normal way of interpreting everything relaxes, allowing direct contact with what Grinberg calls the continuum, the energy field beneath all things. This continuum isn't separate from consciousness, but is its deepest foundation, usually hidden by our usual mental habits. Neville Goddard, looking at it from a practical side, pointed out special moments when we can tap into this creative state. One of the best times is the hypnagogic state, the moment right between being awake and falling asleep. In this state, the mind starts to let go of its usual logical control without going fully unconscious. Neville said this is the perfect doorway to imagination's creative power. "You are incredibly creative," he wrote. "Why?" because during these moments, the strict control of the thinking mind naturally loosens. The constant judgments based on past experiences fade, and the barriers between your conscious and subconscious mind become more open. This lets creative ideas reach the deepest parts of yourself, where they can grow and show up in reality. But the pre-sleep state isn't the only way to reach this creative openness. Meditation, when done not as a forced technique but as an art of being present, can also lead to this peaceful, fertile state. It's not about pushing the mind into silence, which usually creates tension, but about gently paying attention in a relaxed way. Thoughts and feelings come and go without grabbing hold of them or getting caught up. Focusing on natural breathing helps keep attention steady. It's no accident that many spiritual traditions connect breath with spirit. Words like pneuma in Greek, ruach in Hebrew, and prana in Sanskrit all mean both breath and life force. By simply watching your breath without trying to change it, your awareness finds a stable place to stay present instead of drifting off into thoughts. This quiet mind isn't the goal itself, but a doorway to parts of consciousness normally hidden by our busy thinking. Plotinus, an ancient philosopher, explained that in this stillness, consciousness can move beyond scattered thoughts to experience unity. It doesn't mean losing who you are, but going beyond your usual limits to connect with the whole you belong to. Another practice called contemplation, which is like meditation but more about open receiving than active focus, offers a similar path. It might mean simply taking in the beauty of nature, a piece of art, or the changing light of sunset. The key is being open and letting your consciousness merge with what you're observing. This doesn't make you lose yourself. Instead, it expands you. As Plotinus said, the soul grows when it isn't limited. During these moments, the sense of a separate self softens, letting you connect directly with what you're focused on. This connection isn't just emotional or aesthetic. It's a deep experience of oneness between you and what you're seeing. Neuroscientist Jacobo Grinberg talked about similar states as a relaxing of the usual way our minds break reality into pieces. Normally, we see the world divided into subjects, objects, actions, and qualities, separate bits that our mind slices out. In the coherent state, this breaking apart loosens. You get a more direct, whole experience. This isn't just a mental thing, but also sensory. The shamans Grinberg studied could in these states notice parts of reality usually hidden from normal perception. It's not about supernatural powers, but about naturally widening what we can sense when the mind relaxes enough to let normally hidden info come through. Neville stressed that these elevated states of awareness aren't just spiritual experiences with no use. They're the gateways to the creative power that changes your life. In that half-asleep state, he taught, your imagination is most open to suggestion. Hold on to the feeling of your wish already fulfilled until it feels real in your mind. This filling your awareness with the feeling of your desire coming true isn't fooling yourself. It's tuning into a deeper reality than what's visible now. The quiet mind lets the energy of what you want sink into the deepest parts of you, where it can naturally reshape your experience to match. How well this works depends on the quality of the silence you reach. A shallow silence, where the mind seems calm but still runs on old patterns of doubt, worry, or effort, won't help create effectively. You need a deeper silence where even hidden thoughts stop, letting your awareness rest in its pure openness. This silence isn't emptiness or nothingness. It's more like the fertile ground where new possibilities grow, like what quantum physics calls the vacuum state. Not empty, but full of potential. Inner silence is where new realities can start because it's free from old mental habits holding you back. Getting to this kind of silence means understanding how the mind works. Trying to force your mind quiet usually backfires, making your thoughts even louder, like trying to calm rough water by hitting it with a stick. The real way to quiet the mind is to step back from your thoughts. To see that you're not your thoughts, but the awareness that watches them come and go without getting caught up. One teacher said, Imagine your thoughts as clouds floating across the sky of your awareness. This helps you let thoughts flow naturally without feeding them with your energy. The stillness that follows isn't something you make happen by trying hard. It's your natural state when you stop pushing your mind to keep working. Plotinus pointed out that the way up isn't about adding something new to ourselves, but about letting go of what we piled on. Inner silence isn't a skill to achieve, but a return, going back to the simple, original state of consciousness before it got tangled in its own thoughts. This deep kind of silence is especially easy to find at natural transition times, like dawn and dusk. When the light changes softly and nature seems to pause its day or night activities, these moments are perfect for quiet reflection. It's no surprise that many spiritual traditions have special rituals at these times. The creative state that comes from true silence is different from normal thinking or artificially altered states. There's a clear sharpness to it, a kind of mental clarity where each perception feels distinct, but also connected to the bigger picture. Our senses feel more alert and open. Grinberg explained this as a decrease in the brain's filtering, letting more sensory info reach our awareness. Usually, our brain filters out most sensory input to focus on what seems important. But in this clear state, the filtering relaxes without becoming messy, allowing us to experience reality in richer, more complex ways. Along with this clear perception, the creative state brings a feeling of inner unity. The usual separation between thinking, feeling, and intuition fades away, and instead, all these ways of knowing blend together as one whole. It's not just your mind knowing or your heart feeling, but a single way of being aware where these parts work as one. This inner unity also changes how we experience time. Normally, we're stuck moving through time linearly, bouncing between memories and worries about the future. But in the creative state, our focus settles fully on the present moment, which somehow feels bigger and more timeless. You don't lose track of time, but you connect with a deeper now that goes beyond the usual ticking clock. Neville called this the creative moment, where time's limits fade, and the future you want to create feels like it's happening right now. It's not just thinking about the future, but really living in that desired state, which already exists on a higher level, waiting to show up in real time. This idea that we can go beyond time as a straight line is hard to understand with just your head, but easy to feel when you're fully present. Plotinus said time is mostly something our consciousness creates, not something outside of us. In deep, quiet reflection, consciousness takes charge of time, showing us eternity not as endless hours, but as complete presence, holding all moments together. Practicing silence isn't just for formal meditation sessions. You can bring it into everyday life through short pauses where you stop and notice yourself, what some call mindfulness or self-remembering. These moments don't get in the way of what you're doing, but add presence to your actions. A modern teacher said, "It's not what you do, but where you do it from that matters." Doing something from a place of inner silence, even something simple, feels very different from doing it while your mind is distracted or stressed. Grinberg pointed out that this presence is what sets skilled shamans apart from those who just copy rituals without real inner change. It's not knowledge or technique that makes the difference, but how connected and coherent the shaman is inside. This idea applies to everything we do, from everyday tasks to the most important actions. Silence leads naturally to what Plotinus called the soul's experience in its essential solitude. This solitude isn't about being lonely or self-centered. Instead, it's freedom from the false identities that keep us feeling separate from our true nature and, by extension, from everything around us. It's a surprising state where you remain yourself, but go beyond the limits of your personal identity to fully connect with universal consciousness. This doesn't mean losing who you are. As Plotinus said, being united with the One means realizing your true self more fully, free from the walls that made you feel separate. It's like a drop of water falling into the ocean. It doesn't disappear, but it becomes what it truly is. Water, no longer trapped as a separate drop. Silence is also what Neville called the key to real prayer. For him, true prayer isn't begging or bargaining with an outside power, but a direct connection with the divine presence within. The I Am. That's our real self beyond time and roles. This connection needs the quieting of our usual personality so the inner divine can show itself clearly. Neville quoted the Bible saying, "When you pray, go into your room and close the door," meaning withdraw your attention from outside distractions and mental chatter to settle in inner silence where you can truly connect with the divine. In this sacred stillness, words aren't needed. Communication happens on a deeper level, through vibration and resonance. As St. John of the Cross said, "Silence is God's first language, expressing a universal truth beyond specific religions." In deep silence, all faiths meet because they move past ideas into direct experience of the sacred. From a scientific view, Grinberg saw silence as a shift in brain activity that lets us interact more directly with the quantum field beneath what seems like solid reality. The usual mental framework that shapes how we experience the world becomes more flexible, allowing new connections and insights that weren't available before. This flexibility affects not just how we see, but how we act. When thinking quiets down, the body's natural intelligence can work more freely without the constant interference of our usual busy mind. This is what Zen masters call action without actor, where doing happens spontaneously from the whole being, without the ego trying to control every move. True silence isn't just empty or passive. It's the place where we're most open and creative. Think of it like a blank canvas that can hold any painting, or empty space that lets anything move freely. Silence isn't stopping activity. It's the foundation that makes real creativity possible. This creative state has its own natural rhythm. You can't force it or control it like a machine. Instead, you cultivate it by understanding what helps it grow. Like a gardener doesn't make plants grow, but creates the right environment for them to thrive. Someone practicing silence prepares their inner space so creativity can naturally bloom. Getting ready for this involves caring for your body, emotions, mind, and spirit. Your body needs a good balance of energy and calm. You should notice your feelings without pushing them away or getting stuck in them. Your thinking mind needs to be seen for its habits and gently let go of them, not shut down. Spiritually, you stay open to experiences beyond your usual self. Neville especially stressed how important your body's state is for reaching creative silence. Your posture should be relaxed but alert, not too tense, not sleepy. When your mind calms down, your breathing slows and becomes steady, supporting inner stillness. Neville loved practicing this just before sleep because that time between waking and dreaming loosens the logical mind's hold, but keeps you aware. It's a moment when creative ideas can slip past the usual mental resistance and reach your subconscious. Grinberg studied what happens in the brain during these clear states. He found that brain waves sync up and parts of the brain start talking to each other more. It's not that the brain shuts down, but that it organizes better, helping all your abilities work together. This lets you see your inner and outer world as a whole, not broken into bits. The usual walls between senses, feelings, thoughts, and intuition melt away. This kind of understanding isn't just thinking. It's a way of being that fully connects with what you're aware of. Plotinus called this synoptic vision, the ability to see the parts and the whole at once, without losing either. It's more than an idea. It's an experience where your consciousness participates fully in what you perceive. So silence, presence, and creativity are tightly linked. True silence is deep presence, and this presence is where real creativity comes from. Not forced work, but natural expression of life's intelligence through you. Creativity isn't just for artists. It shows up in problem solving, relationships, science, or philosophy. What matters is not what you create, but that it comes from this living silence and presence. That gives your actions freshness, spontaneity, and wholeness. Creativity isn't a special talent for a few. It's who we all are by nature. Silence and presence aren't hard-to-reach states, but our natural condition when we stop letting our busy minds interfere. The practice isn't about adding something new, but letting your true self shine through without blockages. Chapter 12. Everything already lies within you. The return to the origin. We've come to the end. But this isn't really an ending. It's a return. A full circle that shows you the starting point, the destination, and the traveler were always one and the same. You. Along this journey, you've explored vast mental worlds, soul travels, universal laws, and secret gateways. You heard the wisdom of forgotten masters, saw matter turn into vibration, felt thought shape reality, and the I am become the secret word of the gods. But here's something even simpler and more powerful. None of it was ever outside of you. Everything was already inside. You don't need another book, technique, or ritual. You just need to remember that you are the whole story, the lost manuscript, the living law, the one exploring itself. You are Bruno's fire, Neville's consciousness, Hermes's living mind, Spinoza's divine substance, Plato's memory, Pythagoras' vibration, Grinberg's unified field, Plotinus' light. Everything you searched for outside was waiting within you all along. You feel it now. That silent voice burning bright, that fire that never dies, that knowing that needs no proof. That is your highest truth. But knowing isn't enough. You have to live it. Understanding universal laws isn't enough. You must embody them. Knowing your soul is eternal isn't enough. You must act like an eternal being. Imagining isn't enough. You must live, vibrate, and become who you already are. This life you have, your home, body, relationships, challenges, is where you practice being awake. You can't go back or pretend you don't know. You're no longer a victim. Now you know you are a creator. You know the universe is mind. Consciousness shapes reality. Vibration attracts, silence reveals, and you are part of the One, and the One pulses inside you. So what now? Keep living in harmony. Keep watching yourself. Keep remembering every day, every moment, every action, that you are the temple, the teacher, and the spark. Keep walking with presence. Keep loving with awareness. Keep using your thoughts like an artist's brush. Keep choosing your vibration like you choose your destiny. Keep trusting, even if the world shakes. Keep creating, even when things seem empty, because you know what others have forgotten, because you carry within you the living book, the whole story, the secret, the One. Now close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out, feel it, and say this with me, not as a prayer, but as a sacred truth. I am mind, I am spirit, I am eternal soul, I am the power that creates my world, I am the return to the origin. And now go forward, because the world isn't the same anymore, and neither are you. You have awakened, and the universe knows it. End of the Compendium, beginning of you.